I'd like to call this meeting of the Citizen Review Board to order. It is 5:46 p.m. and we do have a quorum. We are meeting through Zoom due to the COVID-19 restrictions. And before we do anything else, I would like to introduce our newest board member. His name is Joseph Favada, and he is a mayoral appointee. Joe, if you just want to say a couple of words about yourself, and then we'll move on from there.
Hi. Thank you, Lori. Hello, everybody. I was recently appointed by the mayor to the Citizens Review Board. About myself, I am a proud East Sider. I live right by St. Albans Church off of Meadowbrook. I have a lovely wife and two darling children. One of them, Nick, is a kindergartner at Ed Smith. The other one is Brigid. She's about to be 2 years old. Spend most of my day with Brigid, taking care of her as Nick goes to school. And Christina is a studio artist, so she's at her studio most of the time. My professional background is I used to be a criminal defense attorney. So that's why I was interested in the Citizens Review Board. I have that background and really enjoy putting it to work. So I'm really excited to be able to take that in some capacity and bring it to the table here. And aside from that, there's not much else to tell about me. I want to thank Lori for the opportunity to introduce myself, and happy to answer any questions anybody may have.
Okay, well, thank you. Everyone should have gotten a copy of the minutes, and I would take a motion to accept them. Raise your hand if you want it, Ruth. Second. Go. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? May, you know the rules. If you're going to be against something, just say no. Otherwise, I will assume it's yes.
I'm with you, Lori.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Okay, there's a lot to talk about, I think, tonight. Or I will let Raynette talk when it's her turn about her experience with the budget hearing. But for those of you that watched, it was very interesting. It appeared that most of the council doesn't really know what we do, but we're trying to remedy that. As a result of that hearing, or Raynette speaking at that hearing, we did have a meeting with Councilor Majuk, and we have now scheduled monthly meetings with Councilor Majuk for Raynette and I to meet with him to keep up the communication with him as the chair of the Public Safety Committee. It went well. As part of that meeting, we discussed the ongoing saga of the vacancy in the 2nd District. I have repeatedly emailed Councilor Hogan. He has responded periodically and said that he cannot find someone. I did email him again and talk to him about the fact that I had heard rumors that he had interviewed someone and wanted to know how that had gone. He did not respond to me. However, Councilor Majuk did text him during our meeting, wanting to know what has gone on with that particular interview. And that was last week, and we haven't heard anything back from Councilor Majuk. My next
Did he
step,
interview anybody or not?
he did, supposedly.
Oh, okay.
My next step is I'm going to leave it until Monday, and then I'm going to reach out to President Hudson and talk to her about what we can do to get this seat filled. It's crazy to keep going with this vacancy. We're going to be scheduling more hearings now, and we need the availability of people, and being down one counselor appointee makes it even more difficult to schedule hearings. So that's the saga, the ongoing saga of the vacancy. There is a new attorney for the city, for the police department, or the police officers, actually. Her and Raynette have been going back and forth, email wise. The officers continue to want to have meetings in person. We said that we would take that on a case-by-case basis, depending on, all the participants feeling comfortable meeting in person. There is going to be a quote-unquote soft opening of City Hall next week. And we will be able to use the city council chambers for hearings, if we need to do that. And there's plenty of space in there for people to spread out. So there'll be more information coming on that soon.
Lori, before you go on to your next topic, what is the city attorney's name?
Melissa, and hopefully Raynette has the last name because I don't know it.
Melissa, hold on a second. Melissa Swartz.
Okay, and then when it's your turn, can you elaborate as to going back and forth with email a little bit about your discussion as in regards to the CRB?
With her?
Sure.
Yes, with her. When is your turn, Renette? I'm sorry, Lori.
That's okay. I mean, I think I basically summed it up. All we've been emailing back and forth with her is about scheduling hearings. And
Okay.
I will say that she did attempt to find a couple of places before we found out that City Hall would be at least reopening a little bit. One of the suggestions that she made was the Syracuse Police Department training room. And we pretty much told her right off the bat that that was not going to work. But one of the reasons that they moved ops into City Hall Commons was because complainants were not comfortable going to the police department when they had a complaint against the police department. So in order, having a hearing there seemed a bit counterintuitive. But Renette can talk more because she's actually done more emails with her. And that, I think, is it for me. For now, I might think of something else, but Renette, your turn.
So in terms of, her name is Melissa Swartz, and she's from Camberry and Brennick, over there at One Park Place. I'm not really familiar with that law firm, but that's where she's from. Lori did explain everything that we pretty much have covered in our discussions. I did tell them that, we have to still do it on a case-by-case basis. I did say that the only room that we would be allowed to, that every board member would feel comfortable would be if it was in the chambers, because it had enough space. And as we know, there is no real opportunity there to do kind of like a hybrid model of a hearing. So we would have to everybody would have to appear in person for the most part, because of the way the system is set up. They would make sure that the recording device there would not be on at all at the time. They are going to hold some other administrative hearings in the chambers, so it kind of worked out. But I think Lori covered it all. Ryan had a conversation with her to get her up to speed. I've sent her previous documents. She did ask a question as to where did we get our authority to decide how the hearings were going to be held. And I didn't even have to answer it. Ryan jumped in really quickly and answered and said, the administration and the chief all agree that the hearings are ran by the CRB, and the CRB has the authority to decide whether or not it's going to be in person or virtually. And so she understands that now. And so that was the only question. She did point out that she knew that this was an issue with the previous council and one of the ongoing situations. So she was at least aware of that. But we're gonna move forward with that. So I know Roberto has been in touch with everybody, asking you for your hearing availability. She did propose a few dates for hearings. So I asked ma'am and, ma'ams and sirs, please make sure you respond back to Roberto, because we have, about 16 hearings from last year that need to be somewhere around in there. Yeah, 16 hearings from last year that need to be scheduled. So we don't really have time to continue to put this off. And that was basically what we began to, we were trying to get her to understand. So Roberto has started contacting complainants and scheduling them on the preferred days that she has provided for each case. She gave a an allotment of time on those particular dates, and he's working within those dates, and he has also cross-referenced those dates against the overall city calendar. But for the most part, every other meeting is still being held virtually, so we should not have an issue with that. So that is the update related to that. We'll be reviewing 3 cases in executive session. And 1 second. And we received 4 cases in the month of April, bringing our total number of cases. Hold on, Roberto. I can't get, he's there. I can't get into the system. I'll text him. He's checking now. But I can't. I think we're somewhere around 30. I think we're somewhere around 26, somewhere around in there for the
year.
month of, so far from now till since January. And he's typing now. 1 second. Oh, he's trying to connect. So yeah, we're having issues. So moving right along, the backlog of cases. So there was a severe backlog of cases between our department and the police department from 2017 all the way up to 2019, considering, we're now in 2021. And so I have been meeting with the police department and the FOIL person for the administration to discuss those backlog cases. Some cases we are able to get documentation from the police department, such as the 10 ones related to the officers and any other documents. But for the most part, that's about the best that we're going to be able to do in order to not have them be even further backlogged by trying to fully investigate all of those past cases. So we're working right along to try to remedy this situation. Again, we are still, as the board, going to have to review all of those cases and decide whether or not to vote it to a hearing. So that's why it's definitely the need to have that private investigator, that full-time private investigator, because we have cases that are on deadline related to the 18-month deadline for civil service. And then we have those cases that need to be done. And we had at least 40 something cases that were backlogged. And so with that being said, we just need more assistance in the office. We did put in our most recent budget request. We requested a full-time investigator. We requested a data analysis. We requested a community engagement specialist, and we requested a policy analyst. It appeared from the conversations that they were having that the private investigator, the full-time investigator, might be the higher one on the totem pole, and they agreed to increase our private investigator budget to 10,000 from 5. So that will assist, but it's still nothing like having somebody full-time, because we pay our private investigator $50 an hour to review cases. And typically we're paying him somewhere between about $600 a case, close between 6 and 1,000 on cases, depending on how many witnesses and how much, legwork he has to do in relation to those cases. So therefore, to me, it just seems, more economically feasible to get a full-time investigator where we just pay a flat salary and we're not paying per case. And then we can continue to use, our private investigator for, those other kind of cases. So we had our budget hearing. Then I spoke at a public safety committee meeting. Then we had a open public meeting related to the budget, and that's the one that Lori spoke at. So we have talked about the budget request at 3 different times this year, which is a record. And so we'll see where we go from here. I sent everybody an email related to the NACO virtual trainings that they had offered. They cost $15 a person. I have signed up. I received notice from Joe and Cynthia for them to attend the trainings. I didn't receive anything for anybody else. One training was May 18th and one training was June the 9th. So we have purchased those and paid for them on the city credit card, and they should have received notices to their emails confirming their registration.
Renee, is it too late to sign up for that?
I can check and see if it's still open.
Okay, because I
Joe,
wanted to do that, but I didn't know, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Whether
you
it's-
gotta let me know. And
Yeah.
so, is there anyone else that's on this call right now that is looking to do those virtual trainings? May 18th and June the 9th. Did you receive a email, Joe?
Yes, for both the 18th and the 9th, I got an email.
Okay, Cynthia? Did you receive a confirming email?
Yes,
Okay,
I did.
great. All right, just wanting to make sure. So I'll look into whether or not I can sign up. Cliff, is there anybody else on the call looking to sign up? Okay. You're talking about for both the 18th and the 9th, Cliff? For both dates or
Yes,
just one?
both days.
Okay. All right. Dan, I saw your hand raised.
I have 2 questions. Number one, am I led to believe that the cost of these sessions is coming out of the city credit card and not our budget?
Well, it is coming out of our budget. It's gonna come out of our training budget to pay these registration fees,
Okay,
but it's not coming out your pocket.
okay. Second question is, now that we're starting to open things up a little bit, when can we get back into City Hall?
So Lori alluded to them having a soft opening the second week in May, but it's pretty soft. I mean, like really soft.
What does that mean?
It just means that it's really not open to the public. It's really to conduct city business with parties outside that need to be, but it's not open for people to just walk through City Hall and come through. But because we are still a department in the city, if it falls within that particular week, then we are considered to be covered. They will continue to have a security guard at that desk, and they will be doing temperature checks, and they do temperature checks and you'll have to sign in and do all of that kind of stuff so that if there is a situation, they have notification that you've been in the building. I think they are trying to have metal detectors in the building as well, just so you might have to walk through that. I think I'm not completely confirmed on that part, but that will happen. So if we should happen to hold a CRB hearing in person and it's going to be in City Hall chambers, then we will have the same security guard that is usually there, most likely on our regular scheduled meetings there, you know, until we're completely done. Yes, Dan?
Does that mean that the public, who is normally invited to these meetings, will not be able to come to the meeting? It'll just be us?
So a hearing, as you know, is just us and the police department and a complainant. So if we are back to our regularly scheduled meetings, then yes, they will be open to the public, but that's not what we're talking about.
Okay, thank you. That's what I wanted to know.
I think, Dan, the easiest way.
I want this computer to go someplace where the sun can't get at it.
I'm sure you do, but I think if you, the way I'm gonna look at it is when the city council starts having their meetings back in City Hall will be when we're able to have ours.
Do we have any idea when that might be?
We do not.
Okay, all right. So there's no plans to do it in the near future?
Correct. Not that we've heard.
Okay. Thank you.
Ruth? I can't hear you, Ruth. I think you're muted.
I'm wondering if it's okay to ask who's been vaccinated and who hasn't.
That's up to people whether they want to answer it or not.
Yeah, that's up to people. So the reason why we are looking at the space that is in City Hall is because even if people are vaccinated, we still need to maintain 6 feet between everybody, and everybody would be wearing a mask the entire time. So therefore, it's still, I mean, I don't know, that's to me personal information. People can share that if they would like, but you know, I don't think we have the authority to really ask whether or not a person has or not.
But is there any criteria that either requires it or proposes it?
We don't have a criteria.
Pardon me?
Yeah, we don't have a criteria for that.
Okay.
I think that just as long as we're on the topic, my take on this would be each hearing will be taken separately, based on people's availability, obviously. So when we schedule a hearing, we will discuss with the proposed hearing panel whether they feel comfortable meeting in person or not. If people are going to be on the panel and do not want to meet in person, then we will let them know that that particular hearing will not be held in person.
Okay.
But we also need to make sure that it is it's going to be a majority rule. So if the majority of the hearing panel is okay with it being in person, then we're going in person.
Okay.
You know, that kind of thing. So I just don't want people to think that just because they voice it, that means that we're just holding it, you know, virtually, no matter what. So just wanting to make sure. Joe, just so you know, a hearing panel consists of 1 mayoral appointee, 1 at-large counselor, and 1 district counselor. So that's 3 people. So that's what makes up the hearing panel. So therefore, everybody who meets that criteria, who is contacted, would have to advise whether or not they want to be in person or virtually. Now, if the complainant says that they want to be in person, we have to take that into consideration as well, rather than virtually, or we have to figure out how we work that out. But again, if we're all in the city, if we're all in the common council chambers, I would have to bring my laptop in order for that particular person to be up on, for the complainant to be on WebEx during the meeting, during the hearing, because there's no ability to, you know what I mean, do that in any other way. So just so you're aware.
Right.
Okay. And then in terms of, there have been questions about whether or not we are going to hold hearings, whether or not a complainant is there or not. That is going to be based upon a case by case basis as well, because our hearing rules that are currently, that we go by say that a complainant can choose whether or not they want to attend. So that's another thing that we should, be aware of and be ready to have discussions on related to that particular hearing panel. Okay. I think that might conclude the end of my statements for now.
Okay.
Unless there are any further questions.
Okay, moving on to committees. Community relations, for those of you who have looked, there is on our Facebook page a link to the United We End Racism duck tickets. So it's after much discussion between Renette and the city. Well, let me back up. Apparently, when you partner with the organizations that are doing the End Racism duck race, you have the ability to receive partial funding. So if, for example, for every $10 in tickets that we sell, we can get $2.50 back to the Citizen Review Board. However, we can't take donations. Well, we can take a gift if it is approved by the council. So the way that we're doing this now is for every ticket that one of us sells for $10, $2.50 will be gifted to the Citizen Review Board through the council with their approval. So there is a process, but ultimately we could end up making some extra money on this, which we would hope would help with buying candy and stuff to give away at events that we will hopefully have at some point in the future.
And any other outreach materials, like, how we talk about water bottles, we talk about, lanyards, we talk about stress balls, things of that nature that don't really kind of run into the budget. Even though we have outreach budget, they usually, kind of let us stick to t-shirts. So that's another conversation we should have.
Now, if you go to the link that's on our Facebook page and you click on the link, there is the availability for people to buy the tickets through that link. So, you don't have to go and say, here's a ticket. So if anybody who's got a Facebook page, if you can share that information on your page, share it with your friends and family. Hopefully, the more people that get in, they can donate starting at $5 up to $250. So hopefully some of us have family and friends that want to donate more than $10. So whatever we can do to make this a successful event for us. Part of this we will be given credit for being partners on a flyer or on something it's a virtual event on June 26th. So there will be some mention of the Citizen Review Board at that event. So we'll see how
you
this
did
goes.
Receive it in your email too, just to add it. It's not only on the Facebook page, but you did receive the link and information and flyers to circulate in the email. If you didn't, I will recirculate that.
Yeah, you need to send that to me again right now, because I don't have any emails from you.
Okay.
Any questions on that? I know I wasn't really that clear, but you can always call me and I can talk you through it too. So, but there's options on how many tickets, how to pay. It's pretty easy once you get the link. So, I don't know that there's anything else in community relations. Cliff, you have anything?
We do have one more. We do have one more event that's coming up through. It's called Upstate Mask Mania. I believe I just forwarded to the link to the people on the outreach committee. But it's Thursday, May 20th, and I'll forward this to everybody else. But it's Thursday, May 20th from 4 to 6:30 at Mercy Works on the corner of South Salina Street and Rayner. and it's learn about the health disparities in our community. A prize for the most creative mask is going on, and it's for ages 13 to 21. It's trying to get them more involved in understanding COVID and things of that nature on a youth perspective. And we all know that now youth are able to get vaccinated. I believe it's at age 13 now. I think it's 13. They're able to get vaccinated. So it's our way of trying to encourage them, to speak to their parent and, about getting vaccinated. So we're partnering it with, again, and I'll forward that out to everybody so you have it. But I just got it at not too long ago. So I did put the email out, but we'll go ahead and get it out to everybody else. Any questions on that one? But that's what we have so far. We've done the best that we can related to the community outreach that we have been able to do during COVID. But I also realize that, depending on, people's preference related to COVID, that it's a hard situation to make you attend, but just know that, when you don't attend an event and things of that nature, it puts the pressure on other people to attend it. And we have 10 people on the board. So I'll just put that out there. So it's helpful when you can come and participate.
Renee, have we heard anything? I know Juneteenth, they're not doing the parade and stuff, but I heard there's some other stuff going on. Do you know?
I've seen it publicized on the city, but I didn't really pay attention because I know it was virtual.
Okay.
And so I will forward the email that we received from the mayor's office, but I'm not really familiar with what's really going on.
Okay.
So I will forward you guys that. It says the mayor launches a city partnership with AT&T and Syracuse Juneteenth to spotlight Black-owned businesses. And so I don't have enough information to really know what's going on, but I'll forward what was the most recent press release.
Okay. Dan, you've been waving your hand. What do you need?
A wheelbarrow full of $50 bills. No, I need I need to know whether we're going to have that Westcott Street parade this year or not.
I do not think so.
Oh, okay.
It's
Is that a
not till
COVID? Is that a COVID problem?
Again, yep.
Okay.
What was that?
Westcott Street Fair.
Oh, Westcott. Okay.
It's not till September.
I
So
thought
they
it was
probably
June or
haven't
July.
decided. What?
I thought it was June or July, and my recollection
No,
is.
it's September.
Oh, last time, as I recall, it was hotter than a bride's breath. So I thought it would be like in July or
Well,
August.
we'll look into it.
Okay.
I mean, they've got to be planning, even if it's in September, they've got to be thinking about it. So
You would think so, but
you would, yep.
I did hear about, really quickly, I did hear about Showcase Sundays again. That's the one that's usually off of South Ave.
Yep.
If you're interested in doing a table, I know we didn't, I've just seen it circulated on Facebook. I don't have a particular flyer or anything, but I know that Maria Maldonado has been sharing it, but that's something that we've done before. And I would, we can look at it further and send an email and decide whether or not we're going to participate in that Showcase Sundays or not. So that's up to you guys.
all right.
Thank you. Government relations. Was that the meeting we had with Ryan and Kristen?
Yes.
Okay. Renette and I met with Ryan and Kristen Joe, if you don't know, Ryan Susser is the CRB attorney, and Kristen Smith is corporate counsel for the city.
Mhm.
And we've been working with the two of them to try and iron out some difficulties we've been having. That's basically where we talked about the soft opening of City Hall and the new attorney. One of the things that we did discuss was the swearing in of complainants when we have a hearing. That's still in a discussion phase. If you remember, that was one of the things that previous attorney for the PBA had an issue with, was that the complainant was not sworn in, so they could lie and, whatever. So we are having discussions on how to make hearings better and making hearings so that when we get to the end of a hearing, we have more information than we had when we went in. And that would be a nice new and different approach to hearings.
The only thing I would add to that is that the more we make this hearing process seem like what's the best way? A deposition, or it seemed like a court proceeding, it does create more of a situation for the city and the end for litigation. So although the past PBA attorney was sort of recommending these things, it is kind of, our process is one of those things that allows them to say, hey, this is the reason why CRB findings and things should not be included in litigation. So the more we kind of fix certain things, I don't even want to say fix, but the more
Right.
we kind of change things, we kind of reduce that argument. So with that being said, it was stated, but we don't know if we're gonna have to really have the hearing chair at the time of the hearing say, we wouldn't make anybody use the Bible, but we could reiterate that you signed this complaint under the penalty of perjury, and that penalty of perjury still applies. And, although we already say, we, you signed it and we expect you to tell the truth. The more we kind of do those other things, it kind of, it's great for the CRB, but it's not always great on the flip side of it. So we're having discussions, but there hasn't been nothing that's made it concrete, because it does create another element.
Yes.
If you guys can read between the lines there. So, okay.
Board development, I think we pretty much talked about that.
Well, we talked about
we're
that,
gonna
but we
add-
also need to add whether or not we are gonna have our annual training. And whether or not we're gonna have Bob come back from Bobcat training, or whether or not we're gonna have some other training, because we usually still do a formal 1-day training, and we
I
were
think we should.
waiting. We were waiting to try to make sure that we had a full board instead of having board members miss it. So we are hoping to do it when we have a full board. So that's the question. But I think that it is imperative for us to still have that 1-day training, meeting of the minds, and learn some important material. What do you guys think?
I can't find anything to disagree with on that.
Cynthia?
Yes, I do believe that we need the annual training, but my question is, well, obviously not last year. Whenever we had that training, it was set up in the for the Common Council. Is that, the Commons, is that the guy you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah, because we had that, what was it, 4 hours worth of training with him. And we need to consider whether or not we bring him back, or if we do a combination of him and somebody else, or what do we do? But I do, think I did see the need for a formal board training. Yes.
So what about a couple of years ago when we had the it was on a Saturday, it was in the building of 1199 with Melanie Holmes and another young man, I can't remember his name.
Yeah, we
Did
would
we look
still have
into that?
some. Yeah, we will still have some board development. That's why I said like the meeting of the minds, we would still have some board development included in that. I'm not sure if we would still use Interfaith Works again. I think that we should I think we should, figure out whether or not that complete process was beneficial to everybody. And where would we, because many of the same board members are on the board still, and see whether or not we think we can grow from there. So I think that that's a discussion that needs to be had. But
Well, Renette, why don't you and I get together and we'll try and have a proposal for training for the next board meeting?
sounds like a plan. We
Okay,
usually
thank
have
you.
it in March, but March has passed, so we're hoping sometime in June, I would say at the latest. Let's see what we can have, or at the
If anybody has any training suggestions, please get them to one of us and we'll include them.
Yeah, so late June, early July, after we have our meeting, but we'll have a proposal for you, and then we can see if we can do it at 1199 or the.
I think 1199 was opening this week as well. But they're also staggering their staff, so I'm not sure how they would feel about us coming in, but we can find that out.
Okay, so we'll look into that, and we'll also look into the atrium as to whether or not that would be another place, because we can again we're looking to make sure we're spread out, no matter what we do. Okay.
Police liaison. And I thought I had one in my calendar coming up. Is it in June?
I believe it's in June.
Yes, June 3rd, the same day as our board meeting.
Yeah, so I think that it's in June. I'm gonna have to look at, let me see if I can, I will email everybody in order to not hold up the time. But I do believe that it's in June. It's usually every quarter. A
June
quarter
3rd.
consistent. June 3rd.
Yep.
Yes. So, yeah, that's what I have. June 3rd at 2 o'clock, 2 to 3. So members of the Police Relations Committee, please mark your calendars accordingly for June the 3rd.
It'll be virtual.
It will be virtual from 2 to 3. And if you don't have the invite, let me know and I'll forward it to you.
Okay, that's the end of committees. Any new business? Okay. Peter, do you have any public comment?
I do, thank you. I just wanted to stop in and say hi, since I'm no longer on the board. And
We appreciate that.
let me say one thing. While I was sitting here listening to your business, I looked up the Westcott Street Fair. Since I had my laptop, it is on at this point for September 26th. So you can, it's at westcottfair.org. You can find it easily on Google. You type in Westcott Street Fair. So yeah, I just wanted to say a couple things. I wanted to publicly thank everybody that I served with on the board. Renette and Roberto and all the board members for working closely together. And I think it was a valuable experience for all of us. And I think we all made efforts to work cooperatively and keep open communication. And I think that was really important. And I just, it was a good experience in that way. I want to briefly share a couple thoughts about the board. And Lori sort of alluded to some of this at the beginning in terms of how the board's perceived by others in the city, including the police department and the administration. I think it's important to realize that the CRB's power is not all in making determinations at hearings and making those recommendations to the chief, because the chief has the power to ignore them anyway. I think the CRB has to realize that a good part of its power is in the recommendations that come out in the quarterly and especially the annual report. And the hard part is to figure out how to push those recommendations forward. I think the Walsh administration did take seriously the one that had been in there for years about revising the use of force, and I think my guess is that was a condition when the new chief was hired. So they do pay some attention, but I think it's critical that the CRB figure out how it is going to push its recommendations and make sure the right recommendations are in there, and that other things that are within the CRB's power, like nominating a board member for an empty seat, are pushed forward. I'm glad to hear from Lori that there's going to be more meetings with the Public Safety Committee, or with the chair, I guess. The only suggestion I would make is for that, I see if there are other members of these Public Safety Committee meeting, other counselors interested in showing up, because you might not always make all the progress you want with just the chair. So that's just a thought I have. So again, thank you everybody for the experience. And I shouldn't do this, but I want to, there's one board member, I want to thank Cliff. Cliff and I did not always agree, but every time I listened to him, I learned something. So thank you, Cliff, along with everybody else.
If I could just add in response, Peter, that I appreciate you. We spent a lot of time together, many meetings, many telephone calls, many powwow sessions, in which we had to keep each other on our toes. And also just learning more about, again, our power. I will tell you that in the meeting with Councilor Majoke, we did, we will try to have other members of the Public Safety Committee to be on those calls. But then if we have too many of them, then we have to have a public meeting. So right. we have to look at that aspect. But if we could try to get one, you know what I'm saying, and another one in there, even if it's on a rotating basis, we'll try to do that. There was a discussion about having a quarterly CRB update being held as a public safety meeting, in which we do talk about what has happened in a particular quarter as it relates to the CRB and what we are proposing. If I recall correctly, we are supposed to do that related to our policy recommendations that we previously submitted in November, and ask whether or not those have been implemented. But everything, as you know, and as we both have been saying, the wall didn't come down in a day, and that kind of thing. So we will continue to push forward. But I would be remiss if I didn't say thank you for all your time and being flexible. He was the most flexible. He was the most flexible hearing person, given the fact that he was a mayoral appointee. He was the most flexible with his time and always being available. And we would often have hearing panels during the daytime. And we do have, mayoral appointees that do work. So he was very flexible, and for those ones, we could count on him to be there. So I really appreciate that. Cynthia?
Just have a question. As I asked in our last meeting that we had, my question was if Peter could be reappointed by someone else, and the response was, we are not sure. So has anybody looked into that? If he
So
wanted
he
to
would
come back on?
Hey, how are you?
He would have to, Dan? Don't worry, I muted him.
Okay.
So if he was going to be put on, he would have to sit out for at least a year. That is what the legislation says. And then he would have to be appointed by an at-large counselor or his district counselor. And I believe you and Peter live in the same district, Cynthia. So it would be
as well as me and this new guy, Joseph.
right. So what I'm saying to you is that he couldn't be appointed in the 5th district. He would have to be appointed by an at-large counselor, but he would still have to sit out at least a year, is what I'm basically saying.
Okay, thank you.
It would probably be uncommon for him to be reappointed by Pat Hogan, Counselor Hogan. That probably would be uncommon. So I'm just going to put that part out there, but it probably would be uncommon for that to happen, but he would still have to sit out for at least a year.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Anything else, Peter?
No, I appreciate the time and the opportunity to speak to the board. And
Anytime.
Lori, I've got a couple of files I've got to hand to you. I'll send you an email. We'll have to cross
Okay,
paths.
we'll look up.
So.
Yep, no problem. Dan? Well, wait till Renette unmutes you. Okay, go ahead.
Yep, hit the space bar, Dan.
Myself. Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Peter, I just want to say thank you to Peter. We didn't know he's agreeing on everything, but we got along and we understood each other, and I was happy to work with him. So thanks, Peter, and best of luck.
Keep coming to the meetings, Peter. Keep us in line.
We'll see.
Okay. If there's no, since Peter was the only public person here, I will take a motion to adjourn and go into executive session. Cynthia, second. Ruth,
Second.
hey, thank you, Peter.
All right. Soon as Peter is off and Roberto will be closing out, I will go ahead and I'm going to stop the recording right now.